Kenneth, what if Trump said that you were an alien enemy?
That'd be wrong.
It would be wrong, but it wouldn't matter, right? Because he said it. So now you get to be deported, and you just can't. You don't get to say anything about it.
No, that's not how that works, bro.
That is exactly how that works.
No, that's how you're.
You just said that the people that he says are alien enemies don't get due process. You don't think they should.
Yeah, because
so if he says you're one,
I'm not an alien enemy.
But how do you know that those people that he sent away were? Because he said it, right? That's why you think they are, because he said it. So what if he said that you were? All right.
Did you want me to introduce myself the way we do on
TikTok? Do it, Kenneth.
52 in Ohio, and I'm one of the founding members of BLACA. So I've been down with Trump since 2015.
Oh yeah, Ohio's a dope state. I'm a big fan. Okay. You want to talk about Trump's constitutional violations?
I mean, are you pro-Trump? Because I don't think he has any.
No, I'm not pro-Trump, and I do think he has some. That's why my title is the way it is.
Oh, okay. I don't think he's really violated anything in the Constitution.
I think he's violated the Fifth Amendment in a very egregious manner.
Against self-incrimination? How did he do that?
No, the right to not incriminate yourself is not the only thing in the Fifth Amendment.
Explain. I wanted you to help me out. How
all right, so he has violated the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment.
By how?
By summarily deporting people without notice and giving them the opportunity to contest the accusations made against them.
I think that the Aliens Act kind of allows him to do that for non-citizens.
It does not.
I mean, that's what the Supreme Court said.
That's not what the Supreme Court said.
I mean, they didn't stop it. Matter of fact, they're deporting more now.
They actually did stop it.
No, they haven't. Where have they stopped it? Where have they stopped the deportation?
They didn't stop the deportations because the law itself is constitutional. His usage of it was unconstitutional. Do you want me to just read you what the Supreme Court said? Do I need to do that?
I mean, if you like, I thought I read it, but you can go ahead and refresh my memory if you have something new.
Okay. We have held that an individual subject to detention and removal under the statute is entitled to judicial review as to questions of interpretation and constitutionality of the act, as well as whether he or she is in fact an alien enemy 14 years of age or older. Detainees subject to removal orders under the AEA are entitled to notice and an opportunity to challenge their removal. Importantly, as the court stresses, the court's disagreement with the dissenters is not over whether the detainees receive judicial review of their transfers. All 9 members of the Supreme Court agree that judicial review is available. The Supreme Court has held...
It is available. That, I mean, it's an option.
No, is available as in constitutionally it's available. Not that they were getting it. They were not getting it.
I don't think it, like we said, I mean, they're not stopping it. And I think by the reading of what you said, they can, but they don't have to.
They can what?
Judicial review on each individual invader?
No, what the Supreme Court is saying is that the government must give the people that they are targeting with the Alien Enemies Act the opportunity to challenge the accusation.
No, that's crazy to me that an invader can challenge their status in our courts.
Okay, Kenneth, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read you this one line back. Kenneth, I'm going to read it. I have to read it back to you. I have to.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even sensible.
Okay. Listen. We have held that an individual subject to detention and removal under the statute, when they say statute, they're referring to the Alien Enemies Act, right, is entitled to judicial review as to questions of interpretation and constitutionality of the act, as well as whether he or she is in fact an alien enemy. That is the court saying if the government accuses you of being an alien enemy, you are entitled to challenge it. You can say, no, I'm not.
Okay,
let me read you one more section. 3 weeks ago, the federal government started sending scores of Venezuelan immigrants detained in the United States to a foreign prison in El Salvador. It did so without any due process of law. This is the Supreme Court acknowledging that the first batch of people, the 238 people sent there on March 15th, were not given due process. But when I say that Trump has violated the due process clause, the Supreme Court already agrees that Trump violated the due process clause.
No, he did. They just acknowledged that they weren't given due process. They didn't say they should be afforded due process.
You remember just a second ago when I went over the part where they said that they do get due process?
Yeah, they didn't even use that word in the first quote. They said the judicial review. They didn't even say the word.
Do you know what due process is?
Yeah, I do.
I don't think you do, Kenneth.
And when you can challenge your the writ of habeas corpus.
When you can challenge an accusation made against you.
Yeah, you could challenge habeas corpus. That's what due process. I don't know.
So
if
the
you know what that
government,
word
so the
means.
government accuses you. The government says you are an alien enemy. This court is saying you absolutely have the right to say no, I'm not, and challenge the legal basis for the claim.
I think with that ruling, they were trying to put their heels in the sand and not push back from the president because they're losing their power, and Trump is ignoring the orders that don't make sense to that power. We know from their rulings that whatever district judge, they have no jurisdiction. And I think what you're quoting right now is their final, I guess you want to say, the Alamo for the Supreme Court. Because Donald Trump is clearly in power, and he's doing what he wants to do as far as what his mandate says he can do, and they can't stop him.
So you're ignoring the Constitution, Ken. You don't care what the Constitution says.
I mean, I'm not ignoring. I'm ignoring their interpretation of the Constitution.
You know that the Supreme Court's entire job is to interpret the Constitution.
Yeah, but they've been wrong before. Remember Plessy versus Ferguson.
You know what happens when they're wrong.
Remember Dred Scott? They've been wrong before.
And you know that even when they're morally wrong, it is still binding law.
I mean, apparently not, because Trump is not doing anything. That guy's still in El Salvador.
Which means, okay, Kenneth, we just circled all the way back around to my point. Apparently not. Trump is still violating the ruling, which means what, Kenneth? It means that he's violating the Constitution, Kenneth.
No, he's violating the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court interprets the Constitution.
Supreme Court. Wrong. That's what I'm saying. They're wrong about their interpretation. That's what the whole thing is.
When they make an interpretation, whether or not you agree with it, that is binding law.
That's what I'm saying. Apparently not, because the guy is still there. He's not bringing him back, and they're still deporting. So how is it binding if the president can just ignore it?
But the president can't ignore it. He is in violation of the Constitution.
What you gonna do about it?
The process should be he should be impeached now.
Okay, impeach him.
Okay,
but
all right,
but you can't. Because you guys are
because
weak.
you guys are bootlickers. That's why.
No, the problem is you're so weak that you.
We don't have the votes because you bootlickers won't vote to impeach a guy that's in clear violation of the Constitution.
You tried to get your courts on us. Trump poo-pooed your courts, and now look what you're doing.
So you admit that he's ignoring the courts.
You're going to the Fifth Amendment now.
How many branches of government do we have, Kenneth?
3.
We have 3 co-equal branches of government, right?
I wouldn't say all that.
That's what the Constitution says. So you don't care about the Constitution.
Actually, the Constitution does not say they're all co-equal.
It outlines the powers that the judicial branch has. The judicial branch has the power to interpret the law.
Yeah,
they've done so. The Supreme Court has said that these people are required to be given due process, and Trump has said no, I don't care. Which means he's in violation of the Constitution. How can you argue that he's not when you said you actually came in here and argued to me that he deported these people without due process? That's what you said. And then I said he's violating the Fifth Amendment, which is due process, and then you don't agree that he's violating the Fifth Amendment. How do those two points merge in your brain?
I don't believe that he's violating the Constitution by deporting invaders to this country and not giving them a court date.
But they're entitled to one.
No, they're not, and apparently they're not because they're not getting one.
Kenneth, what if Trump said that you were an alien enemy?
That'd be wrong.
It would be wrong, but it wouldn't matter, right? Because he said it. So now you get to be deported, and you just can't. You don't get to say anything about it.
No, that's not how that works, bro.
That is exactly how that works.
No, that's how you're.
You just said that the people that he says are alien enemies don't get due process. You don't think they should.
Yeah, because
so if he says you're one,
I'm not an alien enemy.
But how do you know that those people that he sent away were? Because he said it, right? That's why you think they are, because he said it. So what if he said that you were?
I guess I got to deal with that.
Your only evidence is that he said it. So if he said you were, then boom, you're gone. See ya.
And it also seems like the guy did get due process, to be honest with you.
The guy, there's 238 of them for one.
I mean, it seems like the guy that is in question got due process.
There's 238 people in question.
You know that those people, I mean, who? They're in El Salvador right now. I'm not worried about them.
Illegally, they were illegally deported.
And they're legally here.
How do you know, Kenneth?
They weren't here legally.
But how do you know, Kenneth?
Because they didn't have paperwork.
How do you know they didn't have paperwork, Kenneth?
They were deported.
Were they given an opportunity to present the paperwork?
No.
So how do you just said no, they weren't given an opportunity to present it, so how the fuck do you know that they didn't have it?
They didn't have it. They didn't have it.
Kenneth, you have a birth certificate, correct? A United States birth certificate?
Yes.
If ICE just grabbed you right now and threw you in the back of the van, would you have an opportunity to show them your birth certificate?
No. It's in my mama's house.
Correct, Kenneth. All right, I'll see you later. We got to get people like that out of our country. I'm sorry. Those are the people that need to be in El Salvador.